All right, so we have three candidates that are running in this race. One of them had to step down, so these are the two candidates that have survived so far. Here is our timer. The candidates can see the timer as well as you. The first portion of this is we're going to give them 3 minutes. It'll be green for 2.5 minutes. Then it will turn yellow. That means that they have 30 seconds remaining. When it turns red, I will begin talking. And I will attempt to talk over them if they are still talking. Got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Melinda Griesmer. I'm here today to ask for your vote to represent you at the Indiana State House as your state representative. I am not new to politics, and I'm not new to the community. I currently serve on the Johnson County Council as an at-large representative. I understand political pressure. I was asked by several people to run for this race, and I held off for a very long time. I held off because I wanted somebody to jump into the race who's going to be outspoken for my values. I didn't find that in any of the candidates. So I went in and on the very last day, went in and filed to run. While I was at the State House, I had no clue that I was crossing paths with Rob Stiles. He felt the same way as I did. We both filed. And afterwards, when he saw I had entered the race, he contacted me and we talked about the issues. And he voluntarily stepped out of the race and threw his support behind me because we have similar values. We both felt that we needed a state representative who was going to be not only pressing the vote for freedom, but we need somebody to step up and be vocal for our values. Our values tend to be clobbered at that State House by so many voices, and we are the mainstream. I've served in the community. I'm a registered nurse. I am also a small business owner. I come from a family of entrepreneurs as well. My degrees come from Purdue. And I've served in the community in many different ways. I've served in the medical field, and several nonprofit groups have asked me to come work for them, and I'm on the county council. I don't come from a family of politicians or political connections, but I come from better. You see, it was my 4th great-grandfather who fought with George Washington on Christmas night, 1776, in the first battle of the Revolutionary War that we won. That was in the crossing of the Delaware. It was my 3rd great-grandfather who helped save the Liberty Bell. My family came from Germany, and I got the yellow. So hey, my platform is all about freedom. After all we've experienced with COVID, we have no room. Should not tolerate at all any restrictions of our freedom. So I push for freedom from mandates, medical freedom for people to choose what's right for themselves. Small businesses were shafted during the COVID shutdown. Kids didn't get to go to prom. That's ridiculous.
Thank you, Melinda. Okay, Craig.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Craig Haggard. A little bit about myself and the quick time frame. From here, graduated across the street in '87, went down to Hanover, commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, went on to fly Harriers, the Marine Corps, different combat operations and different humanitarian missions around the world. Came back to Indiana because I do love this state, and was in the Indiana Guard, active duty, flew F-16s out of Terre Haute, and I was commander of the range down at Haggard for about 10 years. During that time, when I was commander of the range, I actually had a small construction company, built a couple custom homes a year until '08. We all know what happened in '08. At the same time, ran humanitarian missions down to Central Mexico for about 11 years, started that with the United administrative board for about 10 years. Retired, and at that point I was hired by the NRA to be the Indiana field rep for the National Rifle Association, where I raised funds for the non-for-profit side, the side that doesn't get a lot of attention, for police training, school safety, 4-H Boy Scouts, stuff like that. Did that for about 7 years. And now, after all that, we came back to Mooresville, brought my kids. 3 of our kids graduated from Mooresville. We have 4. Oldest is a Lieutenant Marine Corps, second oldest engineer from Purdue, and IUPUI. I have 1 more to graduate this year, so then we'll be on our own. This opportunity presented itself when they did the redistrict. I've helped out behind the scenes a lot, and this was just an opportunity to continue public service. I love Indiana. I love Mooresville. I came back here. I'm from here, but I think a lot of times when you have a great place, because I'm not going to badmouth Indiana, we're not perfect. We have a lot of stuff that probably needs to be fixed, but the only way to continue on to keep our town great, to keep our state great, is to continue to maintain that, keep up with the times. I think a lot of times when you have a big surplus of money and you have things that are going well, it's easy to miss the things that are bad that need to be fixed. And we do have some things to work on, as we all do. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You know, my kids aren't perfect, even though I still love them. My wife, of course, you're perfect. You're safe. But we always, things that I've done through my life, from every mission I was on, that we need perfect or not, every time we went and did things overseas or this or that, we started to learn. People always say when we worked down in Mexico, you know, you must feel better about all this, and you start to learn, well, there's a lot I don't know, and there's so much more I could do. And I think there's so much more I could do, because we did have some issues during the last 2 years that were not good. We have some, you know, it's great that we're going to have one of the lowest tax rates in the state as far as income, but it's also horrible that we have one of the highest gas taxes in the country. So I think we have some stuff to work on, but I think we have a good foundation and good folks to do it. So I'll let myself get cut off and go ahead and pass it over.
Thank you, Craig. I've got a question. Back in 2012, Title 36, 8312, which was a law that made an exception to the conflict of interest laws, allowing police and firemen to sit in positions of local government that might have otherwise been considered a conflict of interest. It was amended in 2012 to remove that exception, so that they no longer could sit in what might be considered a conflict of interest, but it left a loophole at allowing immediate family members to go ahead and hold positions on these boards, town council and township boards. Would you be interested in removing that loophole? Melinda, would you take that first? 2 minutes.
Yes, thanks. I understand that there's that concern of conflict of interest with the family, but there's constitutionally nothing. I mean, look, if we have a president that's running and his wife wants to run for another similar position with a board, we got Nancy Pelosi, whose daughter is on the Kennedy Center, you know, head of the Kennedy Center, and she sent a lot of COVID money over to the Kennedy Center. And I understand that it doesn't look good, but people have a right to run for office, and while I'm not a fan of it either, you can't stifle somebody's ability to run for an office, or to sit on a board, or do volunteer work. That's the way I feel about it. Now, I do understand we have on the Johnson County Council, our current council president is also the police chief of the Greenwood Police Force, and he sits on the county council, and that kind of does appear, but he is allowed to serve. I'm not going to tell somebody they can't serve just because they're related to another person. That's part of being publicly aware of what your candidate's family's like, what their background is like. It's still ultimately up to us as individuals to be responsible for our own research. And we make decisions accordingly. That's the way I feel about it. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you. Craig, will you take a shot at that one?
I'll take a shot.
Okay.
You know, that's a tricky thing because you know, a lot of these folks that I know that, and I'm guessing, hey, they shouldn't be on there, that may be inappropriate, and they could be good folks, and they could be people that are doing a great job, but at the end of the day, I think in these positions, in these special positions that we're blessed to have, if you guys vote us in, I think transparency is huge, and I think that even if something's not, people aren't doing things wrong, it doesn't look right. And I think one part of our job is to not only be transparent, communicate well, but have any doubt about people's intentions removed. And it's just one of those things that I believe that, you know, I don't think that, and I'm not actually familiar with this, I felt like I was back in the history test with Don Adams there, when he asked 5.32148 or whatever the number was. I just, you know, I think you need to remove that kind of stuff. I think that those folks can still, the ability for those folks in public meeting to get up and still give their opinions, to counsel on the side, to have lunch with the people that care. That's great, but I do think it looks bad, and I would probably be for. I mean, at the end of the day, that wouldn't be my position to tell the town what to do. But if somebody asked me a cup of coffee, I would say, yeah, you probably should close that loophole, because sometimes even though you're an awesome person, and I can say this directly to people, I'm used to that from the military, even though good or bad, I like you, you're an awesome person, but it looks bad, you shouldn't be doing that. And if you can, because sometimes that'll create people that would probably be helpful to your friends from not doing things, because when people make assumptions, whoever assumes good things. I don't think that ever happens, right? There's always a conspiracy, or always something bad. And so if you try as much as possible to take that perception that there's favoritism or anything else out of it, I think that things will probably run smoother. It doesn't mean that those people are bad folks, it just means, you know, a lot of times there's no way you can talk to each individual in the county and say, well, no, he's a really good guy, or she's a really good lady, but, so you have to just take those things out.
Thank you, Craig.
Yep.
Nobody has any questions?
We have a question over here. Right, Jim.
Raise your hand if you have a question, please.
The reason for my question was that Madison Township, this past session, had the wife of a Madison Township fireman sitting on the township board. And she was in a position to vote for pay raises and make changes to the budget that affected the firemen and technically her own household income. And that's what is considered a conflict of interest, in my opinion. And I believe that that was the intent of the law when it was amended back in 2012, but there was a loophole where it didn't mention family members.
Well, you could also say that about anybody serving on the county council. If somebody's serving in the county council, they actually vote themselves, or can vote themselves a raise, a pay raise, or any
Well,
other
there's no way
family
around
member.
that.
Yeah.
Where they can accept that versus like the House of Representatives, they can't vote for their own pay raise that session. So that it only goes into effect at the next session, and people have an opportunity to vote them out if they don't agree with it. Okay, I've been handed a card with a question on it. And the first question, I'm assuming, since it doesn't specify, if you want this question to go to any particular candidate, put down, make a note of that. Otherwise, it'll go to both. This one obviously goes to both candidates. So, Melinda, you spoke first. I'm going to give Craig the chance first shot at this question. It says here, how are you different from your opponent? And I'm assuming they don't mean the obvious differences. begin with that, and you've got 2 minutes.
I'm not gonna pretend to know everything about my opponent. We've known each other a very short time and don't really know each other that well. But what I can say based on our histories, I've had a very eclectic history. I'm definitely from here, and I know she is, so that's not really a difference, but I have served throughout the world in different situations with different people and had to be apolitical the whole time. It didn't matter what party I was in. We had missions and we had tasks to accomplish, and we did it with folks that were on our side, not on our side, people that needed help, and that was my history, just helping folks regardless. And that's kind of what I think I'll bring to this job, is the world experience. I mean, I have experience with business, I have experience with Libertarian, I have a commander, so I know logistics, I know budgets, I know all that kind of stuff. But I think what is sort of unique is because of what I've done, it's always been a surprise or some thing that went awry or a plan didn't go, and I've always had to shift and become creative with whatever task we had to accomplish. And at the same point, in Indiana, you can't say what's going to happen next session. You can't say what problem's going to befall us. You can't really know what's going to happen. And I think my ability to work with all groups, not just the winners. You know, I hate that term when they're like, "Oh, well, we won, you lost." I think that was famously said by a former president of ours. It does matter because I've spoken to groups who aren't just Republicans all across the board, and I've had people say, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, because at the end of the day, once the election's over, this is my community. And Indiana's my community, Mooresville is my community." And I think being able to flex and do that is one of my strengths.
Thank you, Craig. Melinda?
There are some differences. While I think philosophically we might be similar on many things, there are differences. I do have government experience. I know what political pressure is like. I've not accepted any questionable endorsements or money to cloud my thinking or sway my thinking. I am unapologetically a conservative, and I will be outspoken for conservatism. And that is why I jumped into this race, because I'm extremely concerned about our freedoms eroding. We have the Democrat Party, those of that side tend to want to shout down conservative voices. And oftentimes they don't push back. Not that you have to push back, but you have to be firm. And as I am now with you, firm about my stance. That is how I will be at the State House to represent you. I do not apologize for that. You know how I am and how I will be. I am a conservative person, fiscally conservative. I do believe in transparency. We need to know, after 5 years of the 2017 gas tax, why our roads are not looking any better. There needs to be an investigation or some kind of push for that, and I will do that. I hated that in the past 5 years ago. We also need to be sure that our freedoms remain intact regardless of what goes on around us. I greatly dislike that people were forced to not be able to attend church services during the COVID shutdown, that they were forced to strongly urge to take medical treatments that they may have go against their conscience.
Thank you, Melinda. Okay, we have another question here, and this time, Melinda, you're going to get 2 minutes to go first. And the question is, this is, by the way, for both candidates, what are 1 or 2 pieces of legislation that you would like to introduce to the House?
Yes, thank you. Just 1 to 2? There's quite a few things I'd like to. First off, we need to reverse the Indiana gas tax. We have a surplus in the state budget. There's no reason why we need to continue to pay 30 cents a gallon in taxes for the roads and not seeing any results out there. Second off, we need freedom from mandates and medical choices. The government should not be getting involved in forcing businesses to mandate that their employees get any kind of medical treatment. I work in the medical field. We don't force people to get treatments that they feel uncomfortable with. We don't question it. The government needs to butt out of people's medical choices, and they don't need to be bullying businesses to mandate something in order for a person to keep their job. It's about freedom, and especially with medical choices, people have every right to decide what they want to do for themselves. Abolishing abortion. Abortion is a horrible thing in our society. And while I understand that Roe v. Wade is still the overall federal law of the land, that doesn't mean we as a state have to tolerate it. We can choose to put a halt to it. The state of Idaho, the state of Idaho passed after 6 weeks, you can't have an abortion in their state. I understand that. I'm in the medical field. I understand there's unique situations, and that's between a woman and her daughter. I have been one of those women who have chose life. I was one of those women who questioned what she was going to do, and I chose life. I will stand firmly for life from conception to death. I walk the talk. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, take a shot at that one.
All right, first I'll start off by agreeing with Melinda on the gas tax. We do have a surplus. I think the $125 back is, that's nice. Nowadays it's a dinner, Olive Garden. But I think if you lower the gas tax, you're going to affect all sorts of things. I've talked to truck drivers, with the diesel is outrageous. Anyway, that affects everybody. You're not just making those decisions, but it'll put money back in people's pockets in all sorts of different ways and help with commerce and things like that. So to me, that's a no-brainer. I don't know why ours is so high. One of the big issues I found, I've met with all the sheriffs of the different counties, and also I experienced this when I was still commander down at Atterbury, and they turned over the keys to the scat tech. If you're not familiar with that, it's one of the very large mental facilities down in southern Indiana. And to this day, if you ever get a chance, it's a premier training ground for special forces, fire, police, safety. It's a really neat operation. But one of the problems I asked when I saw this stuff, I said, where all the patients go? And then I actually started looking into that. This was back then. I said, the community, the families, they'll take them in. It's all good. Well, we all saw how that worked out. And one of the biggest problems we have in our different county jails is that these folks who should not be in jail are in jail. And then they don't have the people or the facilities or the training to treat those folks. And it's not doing them any favors. And when they get out, they haven't helped. They're staying with family members. And one lady I talked to keeps a lock on her door because she's afraid of her son who's bipolar. And if he gets off his med, and that's not a situation that I think is good. So one of the big things I've actually been talking, if I get in, is to work with the state to hopefully create facilities for people with addictions or mental health and get them out of the jail system. Because I don't think, when they come back to our community, it's just not a good thing. And I think there'll be a lot of benefits. It'll help our police departments and it'll help those individuals and their families. That's one that is really important to me.
Thank you, Craig. That's all the questions that I have been given from the audience, so let us begin with the wrap-up. So, Craig, would you take 2 minutes and give your wrap-up words?
Okay. Listen, I'm from this community. I'm not going to sit there and tell you I'm this superstar and I'll for sure make change and make promises, because you can't do that. I'm one of, a lot of folks up there. I think that one thing I do have and what I've been doing is I've been talking to a lot of people in all walks of life and all businesses and found problems that I didn't know existed. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think people that know me and the different things I've done, I will continue to talk to people. If I have an opinion that I didn't have all the information and I was wrong, I'll say that and I'll move on and try to be educated on how we can help people and help people grow. We're going to have ups, we're going to have downs. I'm sure I'll screw something up, but I guarantee I'll learn from it and I'll admit that. then I'll try to go to the experts or the people that it affects and see how can we help you within the bounds of our abilities at the State House. And, you know, one size doesn't fit all. I'm sure some things will upset some people, and it's never gonna be perfect, but I'll do my best because I'm doing this. The whole reason I'm doing this is for goodness sake, it's not because for the money, because I didn't even know. Somebody said that once, you doing this for the money? I said, well, no. And then I went home and Googled what they made, and I was like, well, I'm definitely not doing it for the money. But I care. My whole life's been kind of a sacrifice, being away from my family, being put in harm's way. I mean, one of my greatest part of my life was serving in this country. I lost 8 friends while doing it. You know, it was just, talk about stress, but still doing it. I care about this community. I care about the state. I think I have the experience and to do what I need to do. And a lot of that is listening to the folks out in this room and talking to people and not making assumptions. So I ask for your vote. I ask you to help me. I ask you to tell me if I'm doing something stupid, because I really do care. And I think I can only do this with your help. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Melinda?
I'm here today to ask for your vote. This doesn't happen without you. Ultimately, it's all of you who decides who's going to represent you. I will support whatever everybody decides. I am a conservative Republican, and I believe in the Republican Party platform as it is now. I will do everything I can to abide by the Republican Party platform, which is being fiscally conservative, against abortion, pro-life, honoring the sanctity of life, whatever state you're in, and for freedom, individual freedom to live life and pursue happiness in the way you deem is right for you. The government has no place in any of it. I have prior experience in government. I understand it. I have consistently proven myself in pressured environments, and I've always erred on freedom. The government just doesn't have a right to dictate your freedom for you. We already have too much on us. I'm for freedom, so I'm here today to ask for your vote. My name is Melinda Griesmer, and together we can make this happen. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today and letting us know your feelings and where you stand.